Hey guys, it's Emma Bigling with TYT Politics. I am here with Vanessa Adia. You are running for Congress in the 12th District of Texas. How are you today?
I'm great. Thanks for having me.
Great, yeah, I'm glad to talk to you. It's currently being represented, your district, by Republican Kay Granger, right? And she's been in Congress since 1996, so she's been in there for a while.
Yes.
Why did you decide to take her on and run in this district?
Well, that's a great question. I think that a lot of people in District 12, like myself, feel like we are not being represented right now. And that's not surprising because Kay Granger hasn't had a public town hall that anybody can remember for at least a decade. She doesn't listen to us at all. And that's obvious when she actually does speak to the press, which isn't very often. I'll give you one example. This summer, she was talking to a reporter and she was asked, should people with pre existing conditions be covered? And her answer was no, not necessarily. That is the answer of somebody who's not listening to the people in her district. Because when I go out and talk to the people in this district, healthcare is one of those things that keeps them up at night. They are consistently making choices between their health and their bills. And that's just not something that's acceptable, which is why I am in full support of Medicare for All. It is time to make sure that every single person in this country has good quality health care.
Well, yeah, we'll get back to Representative Granger in a second, but I did want to talk about how you're pro-Medicare for all because that's a very popular position, not just among Democrats, but among a variety of people with other political backgrounds. Single payer and Medicare for all specifically is a very popular idea. On your campaign website, you said that you believe in the separation of corporation and state, which I really liked. So you are a Justice Democrat. Can you talk about the connection between Medicare for All, supporting positions like that are popular but go against moneyed interests, and your emphasis on not taking corporate money?
Well, when I was trying to determine if I was really going to jump in and run, because it is scary, I'm going to let you know that to take on someone who's been there for decades, you have to be very confident in knowing that you're doing the right thing. And I always had this impression of politicians of maybe starting off as decent people, but turning into something else. And I didn't want that to happen to me. And I realized that the easiest way to make sure that I'm always representing the people is to say no to the way politics has been done as usual. And that means a real grassroots style campaign that is powered by people 100% and says no to that dirty money that has such a huge negative impact on the way our Congress is working right now. It's time to make sure that we have a real representative democracy, and that means representing the people that members of Congress are honored to represent, as opposed to, corporations and big money interests.
So what do you say to the people that go, well, how are you besmirching my character? I'm the good representative from X, Y, and Z. Are you saying that I mean, Hillary Clinton said that in the primary to Bernie Sanders. Are you saying I'm a corrupt, bad person? How do you talk about it as a systemic problem as opposed to basically attacking the character of these people, which I don't really care if we're attacking their character, but it's more about how do you emphasize that it's a systemic problem?
Well, I mean, I think it starts with having conversations about what we would like to see, right? Like I said before, I want to be the representative that I want to have. And for me, what that means is a person of integrity who the first question that you always ask when deciding if something should get your vote or not is, does this help the people of my district? And in order to make sure that you're always answering that question first and not, does this help my donors, is to make sure that your donors are the people of your district and no one else. So really, it's about making sure that you're really representing people. And you can only do that if you say no to dirty money.
So speaking of integrity, we'll go back to Representative Granger now. She's been in Congress again since the 90s. She said, she condemned, saying Donald Trump shouldn't even be in the same room as the heroes like John McCain after Trump said those prisoner of war comments. But then she's jumped full on with Donald Trump's agenda and, even agreed with him, blaming both sides for the violence in Charlottesville. That's pretty outrageous. Even though she tried to say she was I think this was during the Republican primary, that she was a morally different kind of Republican. All of these Republicans have gone on board with Trump's insanity. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I would say that what Kay Granger tweets and how she votes are two completely different things. She says one thing and she acts a different way. She's basically a rubber stamp. If you look at how she's voted since Trump has gotten into office, she really hasn't gone against the party line at all, going as far as repeating his rhetoric, as you just mentioned. And she, I think, was surprised when she got a huge backlash from the people in her community, which, again, goes to show how out of touch she is with the people that she is supposed to be representing.
Yeah, and it's interesting because Trump ran on this anti-war, anti-interventionist mantra, but Granger has had a war hawkish record as a representative from Texas. She wanted to cut off U.S. taxpayer funding to the United Nations after the UN criticized the Israeli settlements in Palestine, which I think any objective person would say, that deserves criticism, those settlements. Where do you stand on that, and where do you stand on the kind of interventionist rhetoric that she's pushed? I mean, it's a bipartisan thing, but she wanted to increase the State Department budget, the military budget, wants to have a hand in a lot of these international conflicts.
Well, so I think that our government has some, fundamental responsibilities. One of them is providing for the common defense, but I think that we're doing a pretty good job of that already, and we need to start focusing on promoting the general welfare. Right? So that means making sure that we have quality and fully funded pre-K through 16 public education. It means making sure that we have a life-sustaining wage for all workers. So the fight for 15 and tied to inflation is incredibly important, and making sure that people have health care as a basic right in our country. I think that she focuses far too much on one thing and she forgets about everything else. And we need to make sure that the people in District 12 are fully represented. As a teacher myself, I'm really connected with, the people in my community. I see the struggles that they go through. I see their joys as well. But I know that they feel like they're pretty safe as far as defense goes, but they're struggling in so many other ways that are not being addressed.
So as a teacher, can you talk a little bit about your experience in education and beyond what you just mentioned, what areas need improvement?
Well, so this is my 9th year as a teacher. I left the private sector 9 years ago to become a teacher because I thought it was going to be my best way to impact my community. And I love it, but it gets harder every single year because funding stays flat and costs go up, or funding just drops altogether. What the reality in our classrooms is like right now is that we are overcrowded and teachers don't have enough time to plan, to collaborate, and to build relationships with their students like they used to. There's too much focus on teaching to the test and not enough on critical thinking and the kind of learning that I grew up with. So there are a lot of things that we can do. Educators know what the solutions are. It's smaller class sizes and more time for teachers to do their job.
Right. Yeah, that's good to hear from a teacher's perspective. I wanted to ask one unrelated question about climate change, because I know that's a part of your platform, and I think it's important to discuss. You're from Texas, often known as oil country. What is your stance on how we should combat climate change? I mean, I know you believe in it. That's a given. But especially in contrast to Representative Granger.
Well, so Texas is an energy state. And because it's an energy state, we should be a leader in green energy as well. We already have a lot of investment in wind energy in our state. In fact, if you just drive a little bit further west of where I am right now, you'll see tons of turbines. And they provide great jobs, great STEM jobs, which are things that our schools are always focusing on. STEM is science, technology, engineering, mathematics. And if that's going to be our focus in our classrooms, then we need to be investing in those jobs for our students when they get out of school as well.
Oh, I have one more question, actually. I'm sorry.
Sure.
Beto O'Rourke, gosh, I can't say his name. He's challenging Ted Cruz in 2018. Have you guys been in communication? Have you been coordinating? What are your thoughts on that race?
Well, I would say that there's a lot of excitement about Beto in my area specifically. And I can say that at the very beginning of this campaign, I was able to chat with him really briefly. And one of the things I can say is that instead of responding with oh, okay, when I said I'm running against Kay Granger, as I was often getting, or a good luck, he basically gave me some advice on how he went up against an entrenched incumbent himself, and that he did it by knocking on doors and having conversations with people. So he seems like somebody who is ready to take on Ted Cruz, and there's a lot of momentum building for that.
Great. Thank you so much. Have a great rest of your day, and looking forward to hearing from you.
All right, wonderful. Thank you so much.
Yeah, good luck. Thanks. Bye.
Bye.